follows an extract from my book Fête Fatale, available from Amazon. Chapter 17, Part 1. I'll be glad when these summer holidays are over. It's been so busy that I'm ready to start teaching again just for a rest, said Beth. She was sitting in the passenger seat of May's car heading towards the Jefferson residence. Hyacinth and Kirsty were finally due to be introduced to each other, and instant friendship was an absolute certainty. They were both such gentle, lovely characters, and their shared passion for horticulture would cement the bond. I know what you mean. I hope that all this police business gets sorted out soon. The start of term isn't far away, and we'd all like a clear start, said May. I'm afraid that it doesn't look like plain sailing at all. The more Benji finds out, the more confusing it all gets. I think that I can safely guess that we're looking at death by misadventure. I'll do anything that I can to help. Don't worry about telling me what it's all about. Just tell me what to do. Beth didn't reply, but gave May a grateful smile as she got out of the car to deal with the intercom. As the car drove along the gravelled driveway, they could see Hyacinth standing at the door waiting for them. Don't bother about the gates, said Hyacinth. Conrad said that he'll deal with them without the intercom. I'm so grateful for you introducing me to your friend. I've been looking forward to this all week. I'm sure that I'll learn lots from Kirsty. She sounds so knowledgeable. Leading Hyacinth quite literally down the garden path, Beth led the way to the bench where Kirsty and Carlton were sitting. The group had arrived punctually and refreshments were prepared for them. Carlton, you've made your delicious carrot cake. What an honour, said Beth. With a mouthful of cake, Beth made the necessary introductions. The business of pouring tea and dividing cake covered any initial awkwardness, and the group was soon chatting comfortably. Shall I give you the WI Fête tour, Hyacinth? Asked Kirsty. Everybody agreed that this would be a good idea. Beth and May joined in as they never tired of Kirsty's enthusiasm, and new morsels would always appear. With 2 enthusiastic gardeners and no time constraints, today's tour promised to be especially interesting. Carlton explained that he'd got work to do and took the dishes back into the house. The group wandered amicably around segments of Kirsty's garden, and the 2 enthusiasts soon became engrossed in earnest conversation. Beth and May were content to merely look and listen. They knew that they were in the presence of experts, and now that Kirsty had a more informed audience, she could enjoy the conversation without reservation. Although it was totally beyond Beth's sphere of knowledge, she found it inspiring nevertheless. As she'd predicted, the introduction was a huge success, and Hyacinth was positively glowing. They were all standing next to the rose garden, and the conversation had turned to the devastation wrought by itching fingers on the day of the fête. We don't like to admit it, but roses can withstand pretty much any pruning regime, especially hybrid teas. It's just so annoying because it means that I'll have a poor show for the rest of the summer, said Kirsty. You'll be all right by next season, so long as no serious damage has been done, said Hyacinth. There's not too much serious damage, but look at this, said Kirsty, showing a nasty gash down the stem of one bush. It's like an open wound. At least the weather is warm. It should heal before the frost comes. Or do you think you need to amputate, said Hyacinth. The 2 gardeners moved through the rose bushes with the air of a medical team walking through a leper colony. They sought to bind and heal, but hardly knew where to begin. I see what you mean, all the pruning is in the wrong places. Excuse my ignorance, but what difference does it make where you cut? It looks neat enough here. Bursting with the desire to educate, Kirsty explained the science of good pruning. When you deadhead hybrid tea roses, you should cut just above a set of 5 leaflets. That way you should get 100% regrowth. If you prune by a set of 3 leaflets, that growth is limited to a 50% chance of new bloom. In effect, the meddling has reduced my floral display by half for the rest of this summer. It's not something that I've suffered from. It must be so annoying for you. I don't get many visitors to my garden, and any of the people who do come would never dream of helping themselves, said Hyacinth. The real crime there is that nobody gets to see your beautiful garden, Hyacinth, said Beth. You really do need to visit, Kirsty. It'll take your breath away. I'm not sure that it's quite as impressive as that, but I'd love you to come. I'd like some fresh ideas and advice. My gardener is very knowledgeable, but is too subservient to give me an honest opinion. Conrad tries to be interested, but just says, "That'd be nice," to anything that I suggest. The group wandered away from the tragic tale of the roses and walked over to the herb garden. A new botanical subject reinvigorated the animation of the enthusiasts. I've never considered a herb garden as a feature at home. I've got a few pots and shrubs next to the veg patch for use in the kitchen, but this is quite something, said Hyacinth. I love the quintessential Britishness of a formal herb garden. I know that there have been herb gardens all over the world for hundreds of years, but it's the typical 16th century English herb garden that I mean, said Kirsty. Yes, you automatically picture gravelled walks with clipped miniature mazes and symmetrical designs. What was it that Francis Bacon said about his idea of an ideal herb garden? Something like, "The breath of flowers is far sweeter in the air. It comes and goes like the warbling of flowers." It conjures quite a picture, doesn't it? Said Hyacinth. I'm not sure that I agree with him. Lavender gives me a cracking headache, said Beth. Well, at least the pruning here isn't giving me a headache. Not so many people felt inclined to help themselves here, except a few dears who thought they'd try some alternative HRT. You can at least understand why they didn't ask for some cuttings, said May. As they walked over to the natural garden, Kirsty explained that this was her favourite part of the garden. If I'm honest, I like it best here because there's a quality of untamed beauty and it doesn't require much work. It brings out the little girl in me too. I imagine that this is a fairy garden where the gnomes live in the magic mushrooms and the fairies live in the bells of the foxglove. I keep getting the urge to put up some outside lights here to make it more fairy-like. But it wouldn't be so natural then, would it? It would be lovely though. You could have a little seat in that corner and create a cosy little arbour, said Hyacinth. I've kept this corner a bit more overgrown than usual, as a few hedgehogs made their home here over the winter, and a frog is a regular visitor. He was here not long ago, said Kirsty. The ladies began to disperse and wander at will. Kirsty had gone foraging deeper into the undergrowth to see if the frog was still resting there. That's strange, she said. She stood up and stared at the ground. What's the matter, Kirsty? Asked Beth. Some people, huh? You'd never believe it. I thought I'd be safe from pillaging here, said Kirsty. What have you found? Asked Hyacinth. Somebody has even been pinching cuttings here. Not that it matters, everything grows like weeds here. In fact, everything here could be described as a weed, which is why I thought it'd be safe from over-eager shears. Who'd have thought it, said Kirsty. Even so, I'd said more about the uses of nettles here than foxgloves. They've no practical use whatsoever domestically. Mind you, they're hardly likely to steal nettles, they sting. Well, if they've taken foxgloves, I hope they wash their hands. I don't. It serves them right if they get a stomach ache, said Hyacinth. How can you tell, Kirsty? Asked Beth. You can't be sure in this rough patch. But that's just it. I can be absolutely sure. If I need to thin things out at all, I rip them out. I'd never make a cut here. It's a little foible of mine never to use secateurs or a blade in this section because it doesn't maintain the spirit of the garden. I like to keep it as rugged as possible here just to please my own fancy, said Kirsty. It's your garden and you can work it however you like. How rude, said Hyacinth. She'd not noticed the sudden interest that Beth had shown and was annoyed on a merely artistic level. Beth had deeper concerns. What did you mention about foxgloves in your tour? Why would anybody be tempted to take some? Asked Beth. I hardly mentioned them at all. I probably warned people to wash their hands, though that would be mostly directed to the mushrooms here. Foxgloves don't have any domestic use apart from ornamental purposes, said Kirsty. How much has been taken, Kirsty? Can you tell? Said Beth. She was trying to keep her voice casual, but May detected a new seriousness in Beth's questions. When May finally made eye contact, Beth didn't respond to her questioning glances. Bending down to examine the rendered stalks in the undergrowth, Kirsty counted out 6 or 7 chopped stems. Glancing up the stem, Beth estimated how many flowers and leaves each spike would hold. It was a lot. Each of the tall spikes held a profusion of tubular-like bells and downy green leaves. "I don't understand why they've been cut. I know they grow like weeds. They are weeds, but you can't cut them and transplant them. The only reason would be for cut flowers in a vase, but even then they'd soon die." Picking up the thread of Beth's reasoning, May began her own line of inquiry. "You said that you advised people to wash their hands. Are they very poisonous? Has the thief endangered themselves by taking these flowers?" "I always say that just to cover myself. The mushrooms are the most potently harmful, but for any of the plants here, just touching them isn't too serious," said Kirsty. For the full book of Fête Fatale, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.